understand the market, and they got rid of them, and they replaced
We
them
are
with 3
live.
people fresh out of journalism
Live and
school,
direct
going
with the
and teaching
gang,
journalism, they're
gang,
teaching
gang. Oh my
how to be an
God, why I'm so
activist.
I'm excited
It's a-
about this
it's a
one.
You got me-
really bad
you got me
business
sold.
model. And I am
I'm so
actually
excited about this,
glad
guys.
to see
Tucker
these
Carlson,
outlets
Vivek.
that are kind of imploding.
The rest of the guys are coming in soon.
To trust.
So let me ask you,
I'm
Steve,
excited,
as we
man.
go to
I'm excited too,
Vivek,
bro.
how is this
We haven't went live in
this
like
audience going to
forever.
relate to
I have no
Vivek?
idea.
He is wildly not
Yo, what's
part
up?
of the system. He
What's
is
up,
a
what's
fresh
up, what's
face.
up?
He's probably the youngest on stage, I believe.
Guys,
He's
y'all
barely
won't
over the
believe
Constitution.
that
Right.
we were supposed to be at this
He
event
is,
right now.
He's Silicon Valley.
We were.
But he
Bro,
is with our
this is where we're supposed to be.
morals.
Bro, we didn't know
our
Tucker
values
Carlson
and
was going to be there, though.
But
That'd be
he
totally
is-
different.
we didn't know that. Yeah,
much, I
we
think
followed.
Donald
Bro,
Trump
Officer Tatum is there too. Damn, we did not know that.
Yeah, we followed.
Candidate
We followed.
vice
You just got
president.
covered?
Bro, that is so
Person.
crazy. Like,
How the hell
He's
you be
very much
Aaron?
like Donald Trump, where he just
yeah,
says
we got 130 in
he
the
just
chat
says
right now,
doesn't
guys.
care.
130 in the
So
chat.
I
actually
on live
MC,
right now?
I think it was maybe
Man,
his
how
first
we
campaign
were supposed to be there, y'all.
Bro, that would have been so lit.
Hey, we might have to go to the next one, man.
No cap.
If Tucker's gonna be there too.
No cap.
If we knew Tucker was going to be there, that would have
We
been
did the video with
Sit
Officer.
there, he stood there for about 2 hours.
Oh my God.
What's up,
We did
everybody?
it
Imaginable, including on
a lot of
Hinduism.
podcasts.
You could have hit a
Boy.
lot. We could have hit a lot.
And people
Who
absolutely
wasn't
loved his
hungry?
sincerity.
Bro,
I was
Well, we
if we would have had a choice,
We need a manager.
I
There wouldn't have been- there wouldn't have been a choice at all.
I'm telling you, we need a manager.
bro, but how were we going to know
I
that
think the big
Tucker
challenge
know.
is gonna
and
have-
Officer Tatum was going to be
Somebody-
We thought Vivek was going to be
Somebody's
People
gonna tap
want their
in
votes
for
to
us
count,
because
and
we're
they-
not gonna
they
tap
frustrate
in
their
for
votes
us.
right there
Yeah.
outside
Yeah,
the
we
door.
are.
And
We gotta have
his
somebody to
message
tap in
is
for
very
us.
similar to what the top two
Oh my
candidates
God.
Dang it,
messages
man.
are.
I'm
And
sorry,
they've actually
though.
done stuff on those messages.
But I'm excited for this
Trump in
interview,
the White
though.
House,
Yeah.
DeSantis in Florida. And so ultimately,
Bro, I'm getting cut out.
Vivek
They said they like the way this
figure
film
out,
more for reactions.
why would you vote for me? You may like me a lot right now.
Who said
And then
that?
why would you
Dude
vote
said
for me?
that.
And there are two other guys that have virtually the same message I
Love
do.
the
They
live
could have
seats, look
Brexit
more comfortable
Except
in those.
like
Let's call Brandon. Let's see if he's going to come in.
and total outsider.
Ah, damn.
Never
I just got bad.
been
This up,
involved
man.
in it at all.
So how do
Trump
we hear
is
it?
the
Oh, that's
closest
headphones?
thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
headphones.
he was that.
I'm listening to
4
it
or 5
right
years
now.
ago, and
Sure.
I don't think he's
Stop
been
using his
tainted at all
headphones.
for being there.
And I
he was not in the cool.
I
was
I
it talking
would
about?
like
We're doing
these
white
white
Vivek and
outsiders, that's
Tucker.
true. But there is this is a new environment.
Man, this is crazy. So like, we was talking over them. I forgot that audio was going on right now.
What? We're talking over who?
He was talking. We was talking as well. But what's up, guys?
Hey, was that a problem, though?
Yeah, because there was two sounds going on all at once. Oh,
You
hold on.
playing on your phone?
Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm playing off my
Hold on. I'm
phone.
finna talk to Brandon.
Man, we need to get a thumbnail.
Yeah, we haven't went live in
That
years.
wasn't a problem, man. We can keep them going. Did y'all like that? We can keep them going. Hey, Todd, how do you unmute that? Let's see if we can get this back going. Because that was... Who's calling me? Oh. Hey, Todd!
Yeah,
That wasn't
man.
a problem.
Yo. Y'all good, man? I'm trying to get this video pulled up so I can hear it like y'all. They trying to hit me with them ads, man. Man, my hair different, bro. It's still me, bro. My hair just different. Oh, hey, Alicia. May God bless you, Alicia. You real. Okay, I can hear it now. Big Fred the realest.
Okay, I know how to unmute
Big
it.
Fred the realest, man.
I know how to unmute it. Todd knows how to do all this computer stuff.
It's a really,
What time
it's
is
really
it? It's
interesting to watch. It doesn't feel
3:41.
like some
3:41 where we
raucous,
at? Central time.
pep rally.
Now,
This is
I'm
these are
excited
people
about
who
this.
are
We can see if we
literally
can
going
change
through the
the
process
thumbnail.
like we ask voters to
I don't
go
know
through.
how-
And I think that's really encouraging.
So
can
let me
do
ask
this.
you, Steve. You mentioned Hinduism. There's 500 pastors. Here.
Yes.
This is a
No, we
very
don't live in
Christian
Denver, man.
organization.
Nah, we down in
America
Texas.
was not.
There
There
you know,
goes
they would
Brandon
say not
behind me. I
ready
can hear his
for a
footsteps,
Jewish
guys. Walk
president.
hard. The
With
chat was
Joe
looking
Lieberman.
for you, bud.
Mormon
I gotta lock my
president.
headphones
Are we
in.
ready for
Yeah, if you
a
wanna hear
Hindu
it.
president?
Well,
Does it matter?
Real quick, going back to what Stu said, that is a very observation that he made. And going back to Mike Pence, I got to tell you guys, it's extraordinary.
I'm the GOAT, man. Big Fred the GOAT, man.
Big Fred is seriously the GOAT.
You really have to alienate an
North
audience.
Carolina checking in.
Yes.
Man,
Vivek has a lot
this
of
is a crazy duo. This is what happened.
Oh, boy, this is way
So it's
Brown.
not like he is unfamiliar with our nomenclature and our language.
And now this is like low key is more exciting than
but some pastors have
the
actually
Andrew
taken
Tate wasn't pretty
offense to
exciting,
that,
but this
so
is different.
You've actually
Hey,
heard our
y'all.
message and still have rejected it. You know,
We're gonna take a vote right now.
This has come up in Iowa.
Put it in the chat when you vote for president.
And
they're not going to do that. You crazy.
And he'll have to face it.
No, they might really do that. They might actually do that. Put in the chat when you vote for president.
All right,
Bunch of Trump 2024s.
We are going to
Vivek
take
2024.
Ramaswamy here in just a second. I'd like to hear
I
from the
don't
other
think nobody
panelists.
rocking with DeSantis right now.
They definitely ain't right with Biden.
It's been an interesting event. I mean, we've seen, I think,
Oh man,
some very low
wow! Who
lows,
just put pride?
some moderate highs.
They say Biden to go again, man.
Hey, I would like to be able to see the
They
chart.
rocking with me, man.
How can we do that, man? I forgot how to work this
important to
stuff.
understand. I mean, Vivek
Let's
is.
see.
They said rock
Capture game.
Yes, Lord.
Frankly, when he decided to run at
Let's
first, I was
see,
upset.
man.
I
Look,
felt
they
like
look, they
we should
look, they
just
doing
box.
it. They doing
this
it.
What they doing?
anti-financial
They're dropping who they
so
want president.
important, and I thought,
See if we
you
can
know,
get this
if you're
chat
gonna
box
run,
appeared.
okay, it's a little bit much.
Okay,
but
there we go.
What I've come to see
I feel y'all,
is
man.
that
That's
he
all
is
I'ma
one of
say.
the only candidates, and we're gonna see
Man,
I'm gonna say
oh snap!
when he starts, he's one of the only candidates who understands the issues in a fresh and clear way.
She said y'all be having a good night. What is she talking about? That's strictly just so you can hear when Vivian comes up. We just talking to them right now.
It's not scripted. He sees the problems and then he.
Yeah, we don't need it
brings
right
up
now.
Various solutions.
Hey, shout out
to address those
Billy.
problems.
God, it was
That
good
is
all
actually
the time.
a
You're
breath of
right.
fresh air in this
Man,
environment, and I would
who knows? Who can make a thumbnail right now and send it to us? Who can make a thumbnail? You sorry,
I would
bro.
agree with that. And one of the things I appreciate about him is I've seen him on a number of occasions.
We need a thumbnail, guys, for this
Family
video.
and fatherhood.
Yes.
I think that's the type of thing that needs
Because
to
the
be set on
thumbnail
stage.
sucks.
go,
I appreciate the
Brandon.
fact that, you know, I've seen him go to Chicago. I've seen him do interviews on the Breakfast Club. So he's speaking to
I have no idea, bro.
conservative,
I've been talking for a long
mayor.
time.
a voting
Nah,
base
it's
that
not.
is not typically who conservatives tend to go after. So
Somebody
I
from
think
Oklahoma
well,
checking in.
I will say this.
Who checking in from
My
Oklahoma,
sense is that the
man?
average
Where you from in
voter,
Oklahoma,
They may
man?
not be used to voting for.
You must be real if you from Oklahoma.
But they'll
Checking
take
in.
a candidate who acknowledges a power.
That's where we from, me and Brandon.
himself
Facts.
over
We from
others who
OKC.
think that they are God.
It's
Little cheap.
2:22.
And sometimes when I hear Democrats
Denmark. What the
Oh,
heck? They go off that time?
I don't know.
Nancy
military
Pelosi
now?
may talk
Must be.
about climate change, and it seems like she thinks, well,
I heard it's pretty easy to tell if you know
if
it,
the
though.
winds and the waves obeyed Jesus, then surely they'll obey the Speaker
Oh,
of the House.
man, I'm
But that's not the way it works. You know,
Self-defense.
I think we're tired of voting for people who themselves have a God complex.
Shout out
I have
Chris.
to say about
My
the
boy
Vivek
Chris
thing,
Young.
I totally agree with that. I think the real
He said
division
Vivek and
between Christianity
Brandon.
You what you said?
and the woke
That's so
people,
funny.
and that's a deeper
I hope
division.
you're
They
right.
said rock the goat.
It's a division between Christians
right?
right now.
I will
But
tell
like
you,
the
as a member of
LGBTQ
the
Christians
Church
and the
of
regular.
Jesus Christ
Yeah,
of Latter-day
man.
Saints,
Let's see if we can.
Broken
I'm
bow.
not
Oh yeah, I've been
sure
to
that's
Broken Bow.
entirely true. I
It's fun down there.
hope that it is, because we all
They got
have
them
to band
them
together.
cabins.
We are standing against
Bro, I just
evil.
cannot believe we were
all
supposed to
have
be at
fight
this
together. Carrie, I want to
particular
thank you
event,
Thank you
man.
so much.
so much.
This would have
for
been
coming out.
insane for
Ways and
us.
for what you put
We
together.
I would have been
Bro,
offensive Tatum there. Yes. Yes.
People need to be able to see
This is
that.
Tucker
so
there. Offensive Tatum.
So
Vivek
go to,
there. Who else? I think they got
we got love
He
it.
fumbled the bag.
And
We
We
got
got
love
so
it.
much love, man. That's crazy.
I've been there before.
God. But let's see, man. All right, we're gonna make the best of it.
Hey,
Oh, they
Spencer,
come-
I appreciate you, bro.
Are they coming out?
My boy Spencer Licorice.
They there.
Let's get it. Let's go get Tosh. He's gonna miss it. He's gonna miss it.
Is that on? I love it.
You just want the comments.
So,
We say
Vivek is
Vivek.
the only person I think who hasn't practiced politics for a living. Correct.
Yeah, I'm not a practitioner.
No, you're not. You're not a practitioner. So it's interesting. So let me just start with a very quick overview. You've been traveling around the country.
Sean's crazy. What did Sean
Yeah,
say?
4 months.
Okay.
How do you think the country's
He said, "Tell you a mumble rapper."
I think the country is doing poorly, is the answer. I think that
Them niggas
we
is stupid, bro. My bad,
in our
dude.
country. I'm the first millennial ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And I see people my age in particular across this country who are not doing well. because we're starved for purpose and meaning. The people are looking to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And yet we've lost the things that used to ground us. Faith, patriotism, hard work, family. These things are gone. And so we're lost in the wilderness. And then we latch on to whatever the other side serves up for us. You know, we could wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, whatever it is. These are symptoms. Drug addiction, depression, suicide, you name it. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country.
It is spitting.
Y'all can hear it, right?
The good news in that is I think our country's not doing well, but I think that this is also our opportunity as a movement to level up and fill that void, that vacuum, with our own vision. Individual, family, nation, God. When I talk to young people about this, they're more interested in that than they are in race, gender, sexuality, and climate.
That's true.
And so now we got to start running to something as Americans, and if we do, I'm confident that our country will be doing well again. That's where I'm at.
Is it my imagination, or are people who weren't raised in traditional religious households, who haven't spent a lot of time thinking about theology, all of a sudden talking about God a lot? Do you notice that?
I do notice that, actually. And I think this is a good sign because there's an old expression, right? If there's a hole the size of God in your heart and God doesn't fill it,
just said something back.
something else will instead. That's what's happened in the last decade in our country. Something else, some secular religion has filled that void. But it hasn't really satisfied our moral hunger. Right? And so that's kind of, that effect is fading, and I think people are hungry to turn back to the real thing. The conversation's coming up, but they say it with a kind of prudishness.
Yes.
Right? God is a four-letter word. It's sort of a thing you have to tiptoe around. And I think that right now, family's the same way. The nuclear family makes some people uncomfortable when I say it, but actually this is the best known form of governance to mankind. And so if we start talking more about, hey, that's what we're running to. That's actually what we stand for. Yes, we are one nation. I'm a citizen of this nation, not some nebulous global citizen somewhere else. That it is one nation under God. Yes, it is a nation that is stronger when we ground ourselves in the unit of the family. Then I notice something happens, especially for younger people across the country, Tucker, is they're more open to that message than they thought, but they need someone to serve it up to them. And I think I'm the first non-politician, but I'm also a younger person in this race. I don't have a ton of experience running governments before. But I think in reaching younger people, that's something I feel called to do in this race, and it's why we're traveling college campuses across this country. And I am optimistic about what I see.
Well, since you are a younger person and spend time with them, we saw yesterday that a group of reservists has been called up to Europe, apparently, to prepare for war with Russia. Of people in the age cohort who might plausibly be called up to do that, what's the response?
I think there is no basis for us to send our young men and women, our sons and daughters, people my age or any age, to go defend somebody else's border halfway around the world when we should be using our own military to secure our own border in this country. And I will not apologize for that. We have to put the interests of this country first. And one of the things that does frustrate me, Tucker, is that this is one issue where I so love many of the other people who are running for this nomination for president. I think most of us in the entire field I speak for are doing this for the right reasons. We are people who care about our country and want to deliver our country to a better place. But on this issue, nearly our entire field is indistinguishable in practice from where Biden is on this, which is in an undefined, ill-defined way pouring more money into a war that I think is destined to become Vietnam or Iraq all over again. And if you don't learn from the lessons of the past, you're going to be making the same mistakes on an even larger scale going forward. We have to end this war. We can end this war and start prioritizing the interests of actual U.S. citizens here at home.
So I think, judging by the response you just got, I think a chunk of, I don't know what percentage, but a lot of Republican primary voters agree with you. Not all, but a lot. I don't think any Republican donors agree with you.
I think that's accurate. And to be really honest with you, I've lost many large donors or prospective donors over this issue. And it puzzles me because I think the tempting thing to say is to have some conspiratorial explanation that they have money at stake in government contractors, Raytheon, or whatever. I don't think that's true, actually. I think there's something else going on in the psychology of an establishment in both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party that is reluctant to the idea that we somehow can't be the ones fighting the war that's the popular war of the day, the politically correct war. I think there's no such thing as a politically correct war. And so what I ask is, how are we actually going to end this conflict in a way that advances U.S. interests? And the thing that puzzles me, Tucker, is nobody in either party is talking about this right now. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat that the U.S. actually faces today. And we are pushing Russia closer into China's arms by actually continuing to arm Ukraine. So what I've said is that I would negotiate a deal that ends the Ukraine war, frees the current lines of control. Yes, that means giving part of the Donbas region to Russia. I would make a hard commitment that NATO never admits Ukraine to NATO. And those seem like unspeakable words in certainly the Republican donor class. But we get something greater in return, which is that Putin, in that case, would have to exit his military partnership with China and remove nuclear weapons from Kaliningrad, which border Poland, and get the Russian military out of Cuba and Venezuela and the West. And this is a deal that Putin should do because he ends up winning. He gets things that he doesn't have today. But it secures American interests, too. And I do think in a weird way, it does take an outsider to get that job done. Because if you want someone to fix a problem, you don't turn over the keys to somebody who actually broke the thing in the first place. If you want to fix it, maybe have somebody who didn't break it in the first place. And that's part of why I'm in this race as an outsider.
Okay. Well, since you're getting radical now, let's go through a list of all the other things you're not allowed to say. So you've just said, you're not attacking anybody, but this doesn't seem to be helping us. In fact, it seems to be creating an alliance that we can't beat, and really, it's pretty scary.
Sorry,
so let's just go through the list. Another thing you can't say is that maybe January 6th, while appalling on one level, maybe it was not an insurrection.
So let me talk about. I haven't talked about this much in the campaign. I'll be very honest with you. You want to know what caused January 6th? There's such a temptation to say that there's one man whose name is unspeakable.
No, first of all, it's QAnon. It's QAnon.
It's QAnon. You want to know what caused January 6th?
I saw that, bro.
Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January.
He was actually in this bit.
You tell people in this country they cannot speak. That is when they scream. You tell people they cannot scream.
Oh, Sam.
That is when they tear things down. And so the reality is, we were told that we could not question where the virus came from when we all knew it came from a lab in Wuhan, which now they admit. We were told that you could not send a private message to someone on the eve of an election that Hunter Biden's laptop story was actually a true story worth considering before an election. You were systematically suppressed. So think about this. You told you had to be locked down, had to take a vaccine that was mandated and forced down your throat, stay locked down in your home while Antifa and BLM roam and burn the streets of this country. So that's the lead up of one full year of telling people you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told.
That is facts.
And then you tell them, okay, there's an election where you didn't get the information that you needed, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story being real and suppressed. That's what caused January 6th, is a cycle of censorship in this country. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and admit truth
people scared to get offended,
we will
man.
not move forward as a country. And I think that's the real cause. And we're not. And I'm sorry to say this, Tucker, but I think until we reckon with that reality, I worry that is the beginning of it's a friendly parley compared to what's to come, unless we step up and speak truth, restore integrity, and actually lead us to who we are as a people rather than sweeping the truth under the rug.
How can you, just as a philosophical question,
he's a lion. He's dropping bars, man.
Censorship, in fact, I would say almost all of them in both parties, particularly the Democratic Party, claim they're doing so in order to protect democracy. But how can you have a democracy with censorship?
So you want to know the best measure of the health of a democracy? we're a constitutional republic, but I'll use lowercase d democracy as a fill-in, right? Couldn't resist.
People always applauded that. I love that.
It's just the truth, though, right?
No,
We're a republic.
But the civics majors love it.
Yeah, that's great. But the best measure of the health of our American democracy, our constitutional republic, is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public.
The amount of people who will say what they actually think in public.
Every November, that's just going.
Because you can't do it. Because they're going to shut you up.
Some other metric of what the media says on a given day. It's the percentage of people who will say in public what they're willing to say behind closed doors. There's no doubt we're doing poorly. The culture is censorious enough. Now, if you say the government on top of that is using social media companies to do through the back door, what government could not censor through the front door under the Constitution.
I'm sorry I'm late, y'all.
That creates the real threat to
lowercase
d democracy.
What you can have these.
My litmus test is
Maybe
and we would call it a threat to democracy. It's a threat to democracy when we do it.
No, we need to worry about this.
As well.
No,
Okay, that's a
well,
good way of not pointing the finger at somebody else, but looking ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves, who
here?
Really and this is personal for me. I'm a
Lock in.
Republican.
Lock in, brother. Little brother.
Still new to say that. Not a
Lock in.
politician.
Slide in.
I got you. We're going to get you in, Taj. Taj is in the building, guys.
Now, as a very recently, certainly polling
Slide this way, man.
well.
Come by your grandpa over here.
Polls, and I bring
In
that
this
up
corner,
because
man.
I ain't going to bite you.
that backdrop, Microsoft owned LinkedIn.
They censored
my
Vivek,
social
man.
media
They
account.
he said
locked my
that?
account, said I
He
can't
said
get
that
in
they censored
to
him.
make statements
I need to
that are
go to
factually
it.
grounded statements about climate change, about
That's
Biden's
crazy.
relationship with China, about the ESG movement's perpetuation of the climate cult in this country, all grounded in fact, saying that it violates their policies for hate speech, misinformation. And I'm not making this one up. They said violence in the email. And so in my case, look, I was able to publicize that. They were then claimed it was an error, restored the account, typical operating procedure. But it's that culture of censorship in our country that I think we also, I'm trying to do my part, where I was
They said they can't hear him.
Eastern Iowa
Really
earlier this
quiet.
week.
Really quiet.
Smaller event than this, but we're on the stage talking. Somebody walks in. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. At first, I thought usually if they're screaming, sometimes they're in favor of what you're saying. So I said thank you, but I realized that actually no, she.
When she bit you, you realized?
she came. So she was out of control. Okay.
Yeah. I know her. I ran into her at Dulles Airport last week. Yeah.
We've all seen a version of her, but the truth is, so security was escorting her out, and it felt wrong to me, right? Because she came here to make a point. She was totally wild in the way she was making it, but I'm watching her walk out the door. She's at the back of the room now, and I said, this doesn't feel right. Right? Because as I said earlier, you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. You tell people they can't scream, and she was screaming. That's when they're going to go tear something down. So I said, no, bring her back. We gave her the mic. I said, I promised. You ask your question, but I promise I get to answer it in return. She agrees to that. It turns out she's a pro-choice advocate, a my body, my choice person. I was going to the state legislature on Tuesday morning. I think she must have known that. Came to this event to protest my being there. But I give her the mic. She's just talking for, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But by the end of it, it actually turns out, the story comes out that she's a single mother who did bring her daughter into the world. And the things she was saying were things like, my daughter is successful. I don't want you to look down on me. And I thought it was beautiful that the more she started talking, the more she started making our very point of why we believe in protecting life. And so I said, disagreements aside, you are a mother. We celebrate that. The audience applauded. It's why I love Iowans.
Wow.
She broke down in tears and left. And so I'm moved by what is possible in our country. Our country is broken. We are spiritually broken. We have a spiritual void in this country. It is our job to step up and fill that void by practicing what we preach as conservatives. And so I'm hoping we're doing that. I love doing that in Iowa. It's been something that's really lifted me up in a way that was never an experience I had as a CEO or in business. I've never had these experiences as we've had in the last few months. And honestly, as broken as our country is, it leaves me optimistic about where we're headed.
And you can listen to people. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not going to hurt
you.
you.
So what? Okay, so it's so interesting. So you and I think the intro of you described some of it, but you're coming from a completely different world. It's not like you were mayor, state legislator. You're coming from business and technology and biotech. So what have you learned? How have your views changed since you immersed yourself in crowds of voters and started listening to people?
Yeah, so I think my views have changed in part by my belief that we're not as divided as they make it out to be, right? Because many CEOs in this country are frightened, right, of speaking their mind openly. It actually stops many of them will say, well, stops them from being donors to me, to maybe other causes. They're deathly scared because they believe that we're a nation at our breaking point. And in some ways, we are, because we let it get there. But one of the things I've been convinced of, I've changed my mind on, is that I don't think we're nearly as divided as we're taught to believe. But I went to the south side of Chicago. It's one of the places that's not really where the political advisors would tell you to go if you're in a Republican primary. I went to Kensington and downtown in the inner city of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And I'll tell you, the people in those rooms, especially in the south side of Chicago, where they're converting South Shore High School into an encampment for migrants who they're spending $7,000 per person per month on.
For real?
This is the supposedly far left, nearly entirely black, Democratic voting bloc. And I have never heard more eloquent cases for securing the border and actually prioritizing the interests of Americans than I heard in that room.
What did they say?
They said, what about us?
Yeah.
Was actually the right way to say that. And it came out in many ways where, look, we are Christians. We believe in treating these people humanely. But it's not right that they're spending $7,000 a month and getting baby formula when I couldn't find baby formula a year ago. I can't buy sneakers for my kids. They're providing sneakers for those kids. How does that work? How is that advancing my interest? And actually, you just
that's crazy.
Me of this. Many of them were asking me, as though I was on the side of it, of why on earth we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. So it was interesting to me that the traditional partisan boundaries as drawn are really sort of retrofitted. We're sort of shoehorning an old structure. We're sort of shoehorning the modern truth into sort of an antiquated view where I don't think the dividing line in our country is between Republicans and Democrats right now. I think it is between those of us who are pro-American, who believe in the ideals of this country, who will not apologize for those ideals, who will stand up and sacrifice for those ideals.
He going crazy.
And those of us who are, and it exists in this country.
He's joking. He said, tell us about your leadership in 6th grade. That girl.
Those who wish to apologize for a nation founded on our ideals. But if you divide it up that way, it is not 50-50 anymore. It's not even close. It's easily 80-20 in our favor, and half the 20 are people younger than me who never learned what those ideals were in the first place. We're going to bring them along too. And I think we have an opportunity to do in this country in 2024 what Ronald Reagan did in 1980. Deliver a landslide election, call the bluff on the division. Much of it is artificial. I fell for it, right? Even when I started this campaign, I'm running for a Republican candidate for U.S. president, I don't even talk about Republicans that much anymore. I try not to use the word. Not because it's a bad word, but because it doesn't mean anything.
Thank you.
Right? If half the Republican, 3/4 of the Republican Party's got the same policy as Biden on the most important policy matter of our time, and if much of the Democratic Party, or at least people on the south side of Chicago, believe in using the military on the southern border.
Yeah, the parties.
And put the interests of Americans first.
They're not. And that is a
I'm not sure
fact.
those leaders are doing much for us now.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I actually just got this stat yesterday from my campaign, 40% of the donors to our campaign are first-time ever donors to the Republican Party in any form ever. And the normal number is 2%. So I think this should actually give us hope for possibility. If we're willing to take the shackles off a little bit, relax a little bit on, identity can be confining. Right? The left does this masterfully. You're black, therefore you can't achieve something. You're a woman, therefore you can't achieve something.
Boy, that's fast.
Identity's confining. You can be imprisoned in the identities that you inherit. Oh. And I just want to be careful that we learn from the left, or learn, including what not to do, to be confined and imprisoned by our own identity of what it means to be Republican. Let's just let that word go, and instead ask the question what it actually means to be an American today.
Hey, bro,
That's
he
the
going
question
crazy.
of our time. And you ask people my
That
age
boy
that
Tucker blown
question,
away. He's spitting so much
you get
facts.
a deer in the headlights
His jaw
response.
dropped.
It's
He
like,
fucked
whoa.
up.
This guy's
clear
different.
initially.
This
But on the other
guy's
side of that
different.
is then an introspection to say, okay, there are certain ideals that we fought a revolution for in this country. Self-governance over aristocracy, sovereignty as a nation, free speech, meritocracy. That you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and contributions. That's what it means to be an American. That's what we're running to. And honest to God, Tucker, I think that if we do this right, if we actually prioritize our vision, what we stand for, I think it's going to be a landslide election for I'm not going to say Republican candidate, a pro-American candidate in this race.
It's just interesting because what you didn't mention, so I asked you, you've been traveling around the country. It sounds like you've really, you went to Kensington and the South Side. You've really kind of been to the span of the country. I watch media coverage and everything's about race. And America is divided by race. That's America's original sin. It's the thing that cleaves us as a country. You didn't mention that. So why do they keep telling me that?
They blow what I call woke smoke to deflect accountability for their own failure.
Woke smoke.
So, what do you think affirmative action has done for black people in this country? Nothing. What do you think? It's been negative.
Damn.
It's created racism that otherwise would not have existed. I've seen it. I have hired black executives at companies I have founded on merit. I could care less for the skin color. And then behind closed doors, people will say, well, that person got their job because of race, because they're jealous because they weren't good enough to get the job. But that's sad. It's unfair to everyone involved.
Woke smoke.
They'll blow woke smoke. They'll say math is racist. When in fact, you know, what might be wrong is not teaching kids in the inner city for a year under COVID lockdowns how to do math. And then they're using this to cover up for that failure. I personally think that's actually what's going on in the U.S. military, too. Right? People wonder about where's this wokeness in the military coming from. I mean, our military has been disastrous in defining its purpose, how we're actually using the resources of a military to fight wars that we haven't actually shown great value from in the last 25 years. So let's just talk about systemic racism and white rage.
They distract you like a magician.
Companies do it. The military does it. Schools do it. Teachers' unions do it. It's irrelevant. And in fact, what would they ever do without those poor black kids who they could hold out as the sacrificial lambs for their own failures? What we actually need to do is to level up and say, no. Regardless of the color of your skin, how are we going to be a country that ensures opportunity, black, white, man, woman, doesn't matter? You know, my parents came to this country with almost no money.
Dog.
I've gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. And then people tell me, oh, that's because you had privilege. They tell me white privilege. It's sort of weird. It's sort of an interesting. It's kind of interesting.
Do you tell them?
Hendrix said, "Do you tell
him?" But the interesting answer is actually what I do tell them, Tucker, is that I did have privilege. I didn't grow up in money, but I had two parents in the house, a mother and a father, with a focus on education and a faith in God. And you know what? That is the ultimate privilege. That if I'm going to enjoy that, every kid in this country...
Boy, 100% facts. 100% facts.
I just have to ask you this. Do you, because you're not a political professional, do you think Biden's going to be the nominee?
So it depends on who the Republican nominee is. I'm running because at this point, actually, my heart says, I couldn't have told you this in February. I launched on your show, and honest to God, when I left, I had no idea how this thing was going to go. My gut instinct is that I will be the nominee and in a position to win this in a landslide versus Biden. And they will not let Biden run against me. So I believe that if I am the nominee, they will not let Biden run. It is why they're holding in the back pocket the documents case against Biden. It is why they're holding in the back pocket everything else that you're wondering why they're not charging or bringing now. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a managerial class, deep state bureaucratic class versus elected official puppets thing. And so they're not going to have to use that if it's Trump because they think based on, they don't analyze, they analogize. They say we did it. We can debate that, but we appear to have done it. We appear to have done it, and so we'll do it again. So if it's Trump, they're going to run Biden. If it's me, there's no way they let Biden run. It's going to be a new puppet, Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, you name it. It doesn't matter to me, though, because for me, whoever it is, I'm not even running against.
It's a new puppet.
I'm not running against anybody in this primary field, and I'm going to keep that philosophy in the general. I'm not running against whichever puppet they put up Biden or somebody else. I'm running for our vision of what it means to be a citizen of this nation, the United States of America.
Man. I like bro,
I'm leading
man.
us to something.
I like Vivek.
And nobody else is going to get in the way.
I really like Vivek, man.
Mama,
Good to see you.
Young first face, not a politician.
He just said we need to be American. He said, bro, he's stuff. He said Republicans go out there.
Drop the mic.
He said the privilege, two parents that's focused on education with the faith in God. That's the realest words I ever heard. That's the realest words I ever heard.
Oh my gosh.
That's facts.
Man.
That's how I got to where I'm at.
Man.
Facts.
Where's that coming from?
I found it on merit. I could care less.
Oh, that's my phone. Like, what the heck? Oh my gosh. Nah, chat. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, bro. Hey, he spoke facts. That man spoke facts, bro. Took the politics right out of it. That's exactly what he did, bro.
Yeah,
he just spoke in common sense.
And that's what
he
I-
just broke it down like, we all together, we all trying to get better, let's do it.
He said all these names and titles.
All that woke smoke, man.
Now, do y'all, I'm gonna show y'all this guy that's supposed to be coming on at 6:30. You have to pay to see him.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure
Y'all know what I think?
To let them watch it.
Y'all want to think I know where all these labels came from?
What?
It was quarantine, bro. It was quarantine, and then we was all on our phones. Cause that's where I was getting all that.
Stuff, bro.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna lie, I think it got worse.
It got worse though.
That probably increased it like 10 times worse. Think about all the rabbit holes we probably fell into during quarantine.
But we started this then.
I got some good things to tell y'all though. But
Hey, y'all go cop that Can't Fold merch, man.
Yeah. Y'all let us know what y'all think in the comments. If y'all want us to go live again, just let us know.
Yeah, but we like going live with y'all, man.
Yeah,
you should go live every Monday.
This is an amazing time, guys. Y'all let us know what y'all
Jesus
think.
with y'all, man.
We got some videos coming out tonight. We're out here, guys. I'm gone, man. Y'all can talk to them, man. That blew my mind right there.
We had 2,700.
I love y'all. Y'all be safe out here.
We going live soon.